Yokoso, 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 arigato gozaimasu. Welcome one and all. It's episode 112 of the Stadia Monday Night Chat. I am, of course, your host, Clive Illenden. Once again, I can promise you a very interesting show. We will, of course, be talking about Madden 23 not coming to Stadia. And what does that mean for FIFA 23? And should I put a clickbait thumbnail, EA abandoned Stadia? Or is it more nuanced than that? What does it all mean for Stadia? All this, the Stadia news, and of course, so much, much more. And of course, you, ladies and gentlemen, you, I'm looking at you. Yes, even the ones listening. Yeah, the chat. You, the chat, part of the Stadia Monday Night Chat. So, shall we do this? Shall we do this? Let's do this. Okay, as ever, a lot of people down the virtual Twitter pub have an opinion on this. So what do you think? Let me know in the chat as the show progresses. Let me know what games you've been playing, of course. What do you think of the Stadia Pro games that dropped last week? What do you want to ask me about Stadia, Stadia's future? Any of that, you know the score, ladies and gentlemen. Get it down in the chat. And of course, before we forget, please hit the likes because I like it. YouTube likes it, and it helps people like you find content like this. Although, ladies and gentlemen, TBH, yeah, to be honest, not enough people. I have high standards, high expectations. This show is not penetrating through enough like I want it to, which is annoying because it would educate, inform, and of course, entertain so many more people. And I wish it would because they need it. Not the entertaining bit so much, but the educating and the informing. So please do your part. Comment, like, share, get it out there. Let's get the word out there, people. And if you are new here or want to partake in the chat, you're going to have to be subscribed as it's a subscriber-only chat today, people. So there we go. Okay, talking of chat, let's check out who is in the mosh pit for the main Stadia act tonight. Who's in the front row of chat? Let's check them out. Struggle boxing. Dang, this is not good. Yes, it's not a great look, is it? So hopefully, we're all hoping FIFA 23 comes. Jerome, always lovely to see you, Jerome. This has to be the hardest year for Stadia. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. There may be a reason for this. Hold that thought. It seems to be going backwards. No. But again, hold that thought. No spoilers. We'll come to that later. Party at Lord Kensal. I hope he's not having a party. I hope Lord Kensal's not having a party. Listening, Sednar, one of the listeners there. Always good to know you've got an ear on things there. ER Gaming. Preston, how are you? I've loved every minute of FIFA 20. I'm hoping it's... I hope FIFA 23 comes. I do. We all do. Still chilling. Good evening, sir. Victor, good to see you. I like to think of Stadia in relation to where other cloud gaming offerings are at, and I feel like that positions Stadia much better. Interesting. Hey, what up? What up, Struggle Boxing? Jeremy, hello all. Been rocking the Elder Screen online lately. Of course, watch the news because there's the new chapter, isn't there? Never really got into ESO. Maybe somebody could introduce it to me. But new chapter for that. Twisted Barber, what's up? Jerry. Primo Yonic, he's not having anything. He's saying Stadia is awesome. No question. ER Gaming Stadia is my main gaming platform's already replaced my PS4, which just collects dust. It's just a lull at the moment. I think you might be right. Did anybody watch the Sunny Cloud Gaming video that he did over the weekend about this very thing, that there may be a lull? It's a very good video. I concur. I gave it my, what's the word? Anyway, I gave it my approval. Very good video from Sunny Cloud Gaming. Puts things in an interesting perspective. Peda, how are you? Now your mama knows. Good to see you. Yeah. Well, Twisted Barber, let's, exactly. And we'll come to that. Madden who? Yeah, it's about perspective. It's relative, isn't it? I mean, Madden is a big game, but it ain't as big a game as FIFA. And we'll be talking facts about that. It's massive in America, no question. No question. The biggest selling sports game in the US, but it ain't the biggest selling sports game outside the US, put it that way. But we'll come to that. Jerome's been playing Madden 22 for old time's sake and World War Z. Def Run TV there. Yeah, I've been playing. I'll come to that. Yeah. Breakpoint Lamote. Yeah. Johnny Robot. Exactly. Boo about Madden. Fingers crossed for FIFA. I think that is the general. I think that sums it up there. Boo about Madden. Fingers crossed for FIFA. I think that is the general thing. But we'll have some thoughts on FIFA and stuff like that. And hopefully, what I'm going to talk about later will provide some context. Provide like that kind of, what's that in terms of physics, a kind of a general theory of a general theory of everything. Yeah. Not like flat Earth. My theories are based on analysis and understanding the game industry business. Theories, they work. Yeah. They can sort of put up with the test. They don't just apply to one aspect of information. Yeah. All information, the theory stands. Other people have theories. Oh, it's this, it's closing, Stadia's closing down. But there are other aspects that don't back that theory up. My theory is an all-encompassing theory and all the data backs it up. And we'll come to it later and hopefully you'll agree and you'll understand and get my perspective. I don't play sports balls games, but prefer FIFA over Madden. Good shout. Stadia Krampus there. Dave, good to see you. PlayStation 6 has no games. Exactly. Yeah. ER Gaming, very, we will come to that. We will be featuring, I think, that very tweet. And I'll talk about that and how that just backs up some other data that we have as well. Johnny Robot has more fun with FIFA. One more thing to make people lose faith in Stadia, honestly. Exactly. And I get it. I get why people lose faith in it. But hopefully, if we get people watching this show, see my explanation, my understanding, they still may not be interested in Stadia, and that's fine, but it may provide some context and meaning to it all. That's what we want in life, isn't it? We're just looking for meaning. I can't see. Been meaning to get into Death Run. Oh, it's been playing away on Diablo Immortal. Completed Saints 4. Oh my God. Very good. Sorry, Clark, we may have broke the old China. Oh, Lord Kensal. Yeah, indeed. I would love some long single player campaigns. Indie, AAA, AA, I don't care. Yeah, true, Dave. I must admit, I'm a bit like you. I like a big story. Ooh, Bing, a big story game. That's what I'm looking forward to. I really like Ben 10. Anthony there. That's probably because it's on the right IQ level for you, Anthony. Joking, yeah. But it doesn't have invert options. I knew you were weird. There we go. Jerome's also on Diablo Immortal as well, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. That is the chat. Let's clear that off. Right. I've been playing. So I have played a bit of Def Run TV. I saw a tweet today. Somebody saying, don't know what I'm doing, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. And that's and that's the beauty of Def Run TV. You don't have to think much. Run and gun. It's literally a twin stick run and gun game. Hell of a lot of fun. Pick it up, put it down, walk away, come back, pick it up, walk. Don't know what's happening. Just fire, pick guns up, fire some more. Perfect. So I like that. Although I'm not brilliant at twin stick games, but a lot of fun. Tried a bit of Lake as well. And for those that have not played Lake, basically Lake, as I say, for those that haven't tried it, Lake is exactly like Grand Theft Auto. apart from the lack of guns, criminality, city location, and the general inherent violence. Other than that, it's identical to Grand Theft Auto. Lol. It's a very strangely relaxing game. I mean, I just thought, really, Lake? But actually, there's something very chill about it. Just driving around, delivering post, chatting to people. Postman Simulator, anyone? Yeah? Get that on Luna, yeah? Get that on the Cloud Gaming Dad channel on Twitch, yeah? Postman Simulator. Not on Luna, on GeForce Now. But anyway, yeah. And then actually this evening, I started Deliver Us the Moon, which is really great. If a little bit disorientating, floating around. I mean, it didn't make me sick or anything like that because I'm playing it on the big TV, so I'm not like close up. I think I probably feel a bit woozy, a bit travel sick, sick, bit seasick if I was playing close up on my monitor, but I'm playing on the old big TV, so it's fine, although it is a bit disorientating, as I said. So there we go. Right, that's enough of that. Time to bring us up to date, as it were, to bring us all up to date with the news from last week. So as ever, it's over to Clive in the Stadia Monday Night Chat news studio. Clive, are you there? Roll the news, ladies and gentlemen. Roll the news. Welcome to the Stadia Monday Night Chat news. The big news from last week was the announcement by EA of the new Madden 23 game, with a new cover, video reveal, and launch date. But sadly, no Stadia. Any rumours that were swirling about that it might still come to Stadia were soon squashed. When asked, EA confirmed that there was no intention to bring Madden 23 to Stadia. For many, this is seen as a massive loss, and of course amongst the Stadia and cloud gaming community, there was, unsurprisingly, a lot of talking about it, with many so-called commentators speculating what impact it would have on Stadia and what it meant for Stadia's future, etc., etc. But more on that on a special feature by Clive later in the show. Last week saw the release of the Stadia Pro titles for June, with 7 new titles being added to the Stadia Pro library. These games were the delayed launch of Deliver Us the Moon, Lake, Death Run TV, Through the Darkest of Times, all debuting on the platform, with Golf with Your Friends, Tohu and Ben 10 Power Trip completing the 7 Pro titles. Of the new games, Deliver Us the Moon is a sci-fi thriller set in an apocalyptic near future where Earth's natural resources are depleted. A lone astronaut is sent to the moon on a critical mission to save humanity from extinction. In more earthbound pleasures, Lake is a game where you escape to a beautiful rustic environment without cell phones and the internet, basically the 1980s, as Meredith Weiss, who takes a break from her career in the big city to deliver mail in her hometown. In this indie open-world adventure game, where your choices matter, you have to make up your mind, return to the demanding city job, or stay in the town you grow up in. Death Run TV, experience real-time blistering speed and bullet-dodging action as you compete for glory, assuming, of course, you're able to survive. A fast, hardcore, roguelite twin-stick shooter set in the world's biggest and craziest game show, where only likes really count. Through the Darkest of Times is a game in which you lead an underground resistance group in 1933's Berlin. Your goal is to deal small blows to Hitler's Third Reich regime, dropping leaflets to spread awareness, painting messages on walls, sabotaging, gathering information, and recruiting more followers. And all of this while staying undercover. If the regime's forces learn about your group, the life of each member is in grave danger. With 6 titles leaving Stadia Pro, the library increases by 1 title, with 52 games for anyone claiming Stadia Pro for the first time. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid has had a roster update with a new patch 2.91. According to the Stadia community blog, you can expect to see battle changes for several characters, from Udana to Adam Park, whether it's more effort required to defeat your foes or reduce damage to give others a chance. The new update also tackles Megazord adjustments, in addition to all the buffs and nerfs galore. Be sure to head over to Power Rangers Battle for the Grid for a more phenomenal experience. And brand new Elder Scrolls adventure High Isle launches today, so get ready to defend the legacy of the Bretons in ESO's upcoming High Isle chapter. Learn more about the history and background of the Sistres archipelago in a recent story trailer and discover more about the noble knight aspirant and in-game companion Isabelle Valois, voiced by none other than Laura Bailey. Super Bomberman R Online, a title that initially was exclusive on Stadia with its 64-player battle royale, is closing down on the 1st of December on all platforms. Konami have stated that it isn't the end of the series. In a final statement, they said, "The Bomberman series is moving forward with new projects. We hope to be able to inform you of this project soon." Super Bomberman R Online will shut down on the 1st of December 2022. Currently, it's available on the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and of course, Google Stadia. And in dog news, Carson Kelly Games revealed some exclusive gameplay footage for Talking Dogs today, an open-world, story-based game where you play as a dog. This is a game scheduled for Stadia in 2023, and you can check it out now on Carson Kelly Games' YouTube channel. And finally, as highlighted last week, there was an ongoing issue with lost saved games for Ghost Recon Breakpoint, but, as we mentioned at the time, both Stadia and Ubisoft were aware and looking for a fix. And sure enough, a few days later, the issue was fixed, with many people having their lost saves restored, and Ubisoft apologising for the issue. If you still haven't had your lost save restored on the game, Ubisoft have confirmed if you reach out to them, not Stadia, but to Ubisoft, they will look into it for you. And there you go. That is the news for the week for the Stadia Monday Night Chat. It's back to Clive, where I'm sure he has an epic TED talk on the whole Madden 23 issue. Clive, it's back to you. Thanks, Clive. Much appreciated. Right, before we get on, so massive shout out, ladies and gentlemen, massive shout out to wonderful Jack the Slip there. Gifted 5 memberships. Didn't even know I had gifted memberships. I didn't know. That's amazing. So take advantage of that. Really, that's really cool of you, Jack. Really, really appreciated. Right, let's get to the main event, ladies and gentlemen. Confirmed, as you heard in the news there, Madden 23 is not coming to Stadia. So EA has confirmed there's no intention to bring Madden 23 to Stadia. So we're going to talk about this. So there is no question that Madden 23 not coming to Stadia is a big disappointment, especially to fans of Madden, obviously. But it is also indicative of an ongoing trend of there not being big AAA titles or returners from the big publishers, except Ubisoft, in 2022. That is a trend that we've seen. There is no denying it. And in a way, Madden 22 just underlines that trend. People have talked about it for months, especially in 2022. And if you've invested in Stadia, I can understand why you might be disappointed or why you are disappointed. And to be honest, other than Ubisoft titles, yes, I'm going to be really honest now about Stadia in 2022. But if we're really honest about it, based on what we've seen in the pattern, other than the Ubisoft titles, of which there are many, don't forget, there are many AAA titles coming from Ubisoft this year. So, but let's just park that to one side. You are very unlikely to see any big titles from the big publishers on Stadia this year. Okay? So again, you are unlikely to see any big titles from the big publishers on Stadia this year. There, I've said it. The fact there is no Madden just underlines that. No Tiny Tina's Wonderland, despite Borderland on Stadia. No return of NBA 2K. These are just a few examples, and there are many more. The point is, this year, there is no doubt, right? The facts are there. Can't sugarcoat it. There is a distinct lack of AAA titles this year. And we're unlikely to see any outside Ubisoft, of course. Okay, those are the facts. That's the trends. It's clear. So the question is then, what does that mean for Stadia? What can we deduce from this clear pattern? Well, let's look at what we do know. Let's look at the facts here. Not speculate, what we do know, and we can speculate around these facts, but what do we know? In February 2021, Stadia closed SG&E, right? We know that. Google is a data company. They have the facts, the data. The evidence from 2020, the end of 2020, it was clear that certain internal targets had not been hit, had not been met. And so a refocus was made. That was clear and was reported on, later in the year as well. I'll come to that later. When you cut massive in-house departments, as they did by closing SG&E, it is more than likely that budgets across the whole business, in this case Stadia, were slashed at that point. And from the Business Insider article, albeit it was a year later for some reason, just wanted to repeat old news, but the point is, it was suggested in that article that Stadia had been deprioritized and they missed their subscription target, 700,000 instead of 1 million, whatever it was, the actual number they were meant to have hit. The point is, it was indicated that the targets were missed. Therefore, as well as the closure of SG&E, it is highly likely, based on these little snippets of information that we have, that the general budgets for Stadia were also slashed, i.e. also the budget for providing significant advances to get the big games that you need to get in the first year or so, at least. All this we know. It's been reported. And Stadia have said as much. These are facts. When Stadia first launched, they had to entice the big publishers and the big games on the platform to give Stadia the credibility that matched their ambition at the time of launch. We already know from leaked documents from Capcom, for instance, Google paid around $10 million for Resident Evil. And there have been reports, similar figures being bandied about for Red Dead Redemption 2. And then there was the 5-game EA deal. There was probably several tens of millions involved in that. All of these deals would have been based on the basis of an advance, an advance against sales, a guaranteed advance against sales. Here's $10 million in your pocket, guaranteed. Whether the game sales reached $5 million, $10 million, or $15 million, it's an advance. You get your $10 million, no question. Many of these deals would have covered games delivering at launch during 2020 and during 2021. As we know, we were told that 2021 was sorted in terms of deals as early as December 2020 in an interview with Jack Buser way back then in December 2020. That is why, despite the closure and slashing of the Stadia budget in February 2021, we continued to see AAA games in 2021. These were legacy done deals, that they weren't necessarily going to undo. So with the closure of SG&E in February 2021, many of us assumed they would invest that money in focusing on third-party titles. That was a fair enough assumption at the time. But I don't think that was necessarily the case. It's come clear to me, and I'll demonstrate here, that February 2021 was almost a hard reset. From various gaming industry reports, again, just look them up. These are facts. We've seen that the cloud gaming business in 2021 was around 2% of the gaming business. 2%. Figures range between 1 to 2%. Nothing. Tiny. And Stadia is just a small part of that 2%. It would have been clear to Google management that Stadia in its first year, did not set the world alight. I think we can all agree that. Okay, it didn't really set the world alight. Hence, and they didn't meet their targets. Hence the reset. So from February 2021 onwards, they focused on the underlying tech. We saw and we continue to see improvements in that. There've been a number of job roles focusing on this. That's investment. That's investment they're making, yeah? So they're spending money, but it's going on the tech. And we've seen those job roles. And why is that? Because there's no questioning the tech. It works and it works well. And Google know that. So much so that Google use it as a useful part of Google Cloud toolset to offer third parties, as they said they would in 2021, to use simple folk, white labeling, but, immersive stream, basically, while also powering Stadia. So Stadia itself now, of course, sits in the subscription and services part of Google. That's a fact. And immersive stream sits under Google Cloud. With no big advances to offer, it means Stadia has to be an enticing place for publishers to come. Yeah, they can't offer $10 million advances anymore. The budget's not there. They have to offer what they have, the service, make the service, the platform, fit for purpose in terms of getting publishers to come to the platform. As Karine Yap said at the Google for Games Developer Summit back in March, they want to, quote, and I quote here, make it easier for players to discover and play great games. So over 2021 and into 2022, we've seen Stadia make very clear that they are improving the developer experience, especially the porting process. These things were announced at 2021 Google for Games Developer Conference and 2022 Google for Games Developer Conference. The goal being to significantly reduce time and cost, i.e. investment, in bringing the games to Stadia. They've improved the business model for publishers with an increased back end for publishers, the share of Stadia Pro revenue model, the affiliate scheme for publishers and developers, searchable links to make games more discoverable, free trials, browsing the store without having to log in or create a Stadia account, etc., etc. Stadia coming to Samsung TVs. All of this has been announced or is being rolled out as we speak. And by the way, they also reaffirmed the 100+ titles coming this year at the Google for Games Developer Conference. 100+ games, people. So, as 2020 panned out, the last of the big AAA deals from the previous 18 months clearly came to an end. It's clear. And with the slashing of budgets for the department, Stadia now has to stand on its own 2 feet. It's a Danish businesswoman I work with, and she used to use the expression, the baby has to wash its own face. Stadia has to wash its own face. Since the big advances are no longer on the table. So how is this achieved? Well, you reduce in cost how much it costs to bring the game to Stadia. Good, tick, they're doing that. You provide a better back-end share. Good, they're doing that. Maybe free trials and affiliate revenue. Yeah, good, tick, they're doing that. Continue to build the platform as a place for publishers to want to bring their games. But Clive, you're just talking nonsense. Aren't all the publishers abandoning Stadia? Isn't Stadia closing down? Like, the publishers are abandoning Stadia, aren't they? They're leaving. Publishers are leaving Stadia, aren't they? So what you're saying is nonsense. No, they're not. And here's why. As I said, Immersive Stream sits under Google Cloud and not on Stadia Books. Google Cloud continues to make investment in that technology. See earlier comments on the job, plus a recent Dov Zimring, one of the senior people behind Stadia interview. He did an interview about immersive stream, saying they're reducing the porting time from months to weeks. But the key thing here is, when it comes to publishers abandoning Stadia, quite the opposite. These are facts. Look at the data. We have seen multiple publishers in the last 6 months come to Stadia or continue to bring their games to Stadia. Wired Productions, Outright Games, Handy Games, Legacy Games, Paradox Games, Milestone, Team 17, Steel Wool, Sabre, and others. Let's be very clear. Let's repeat this. Publishers are coming to Stadia. So what's that say? It says the plans from the reset to making Stadia more attractive to publishers without forking out massive advances is working. Facts. Yeah, but Clive, what about EA? What about Take-Two and Capcom and the big publishers, etc.? You know, so what you mean the big publishers, yeah? Well, yes, my dear friends. As I alluded to earlier, you are unlikely to see the big publishers bring their games to Stadia yet. And why is that? Because for all the attractiveness of reduced investment in porting your game, improved revenue share, etc., it's still not attractive enough for the likes of mega publishers like EA or Take-Two to get out of bed. The return on investment at the scale that big publishers want to see is clearly not there yet for them to be bothered. Yeah, what's the point? I can't be bothered. Unless I'm going to make a guaranteed 10 million, can't be bothered. Yeah? But if you are a small or mid-sized publisher and you don't need a $10 million guarantee to get out of bed, the return on investment relative to your size for bringing your game to Stadia is worth it to your bottom line. And we have seen evidence with that from that list of publishers I've just rattled off. But for the big publishers, there is just not the market size, i.e. the player base, to make it worth it at the moment. And with the original big advances and those big advance deals, by all accounts now done, we are unlikely to see any games from the really big publishers soon, Ubisoft aside. So the question is, what is the threshold for those big publishers? Yeah? How much do they have to make to get out of bed? For example, given the FIFA sales on the platform, does that break through that threshold to make EA go, actually, yeah, that'll do. We made enough sales on that to justify it, that we don't need an advance. Yeah? Did the FIFA sales justify EA bringing FIFA 23 to the platform in a way that Madden doesn't for EA? And we're just going to have to wait and see. To me, that's going to be the bellwether, whether Stadia is close enough in terms of the player base with a big enough game, i.e. FIFA, to make it worth it for a big publisher like EA without the promise of an advance. The thing about FIFA is they make hundreds from the in-game sales. My son has spent nearly £200 in FUT points, FUT points, FUT points in FIFA, right? So that's on top of buying the game. It's another 200 quid. That is an indication of how much that game makes per sale, per customer for EA. So the question is, did the revenue generated from FIFA 22 justify, or does it justify EA bringing FIFA 23? That is the big question. So the question is, how do you build that player base? Yeah, how do you build out that player base? Get big AAA in? Well, probably not. No, I doubt getting the odd big AAA game is going to move the needle significantly in terms of player base on Stadia. It is, after all, a finite audience. Yeah, it is limited in its territories. One big game is not going to make a significant difference to the number of people who use Stadia. No. The answer is very simple. It is territory expansion. Boom. Instant increase. And I've said on this show many times before, when Stadia is offered to a brand new territory, you have a very compelling offer. Yeah? Not like when it launched back in November 2019 with 23 odd games. No, you've got over 200 plus games and growing. Yeah, and that includes AAA games. You've got 50 plus games in the Stadia Pro library for anyone signing up straight away. It's a much better offering than when it launched. Stadia is in a place where it is now easier to bring your games. There is improved revenue options for publishers. All the things have been put in place or are being refined as we speak and seem to be working at the current scale of the player base, albeit with smaller publishers, but it's working. It's bringing smaller publishers and medium-sized publishers and indies to the platform because they know they're going to make money because the business model is working. They just need to increase the player base to make it worth it for the big publishers. And as I said, the simplest way to do this is territory expansion. I believe that as the pieces fall in place, following what has been a period of hard reset since February 2021 and consolidation and improvement in the platform for developers and publishers, we will see an expansion of Stadia by the end of this year. Realistically, I think we will. Because realistically, without that last ingredient, it's going to be a long, slow road to reach critical mass, where cloud gaming and especially Stadia is of a scale that it makes it interesting for EA and Take-Two to get out of bed for it. And just as an aside, Stadia can afford to stay on that long and windy road if need be. It's just not ideal. The big difference here is you're not asking someone to make a £500 investment. And more importantly, you're not having to invest in the massive manufacturing stock costs, warehouse costs, transport costs, which means you need to make a massive return for survival very quickly. That's crucial. But in this new business model for gaming, for both consumers and the business itself, you can afford to play the long game. And as a consumer, risk and investment are minimal. So, too long didn't read version. Do not expect big publishers outside Ubisoft to bring their games in 2022 yet. Continue to see more publishers and games from small and mid-sized publishers and developers. Check. And expect, because I think it needs it, country expansion by the end of the year, or at least an announcement by the end of the year. So no, Stadia is not winding down. Yes, it had a hard reset, if anything. And we've seen them, the Stadia team, working on the offering for developers and publishers. So if it bothers you that you have a service that will have 300 plus games by the end of the year, continues to add 4 or 5 games to Stadia Pro each month, is not costing a $500 investment in hardware, and that really, really bothers you, and because one big AAA game's not coming, you're going to throw it all away, fine, I get it. Get a pair of scissors, apply to nose, cut it off, show it your face, and move on. Stadia's not a monopoly. There are choices. Just don't let the door hit you on the way out, and don't let Stadia stay rent-free in your head. If you've invested in Stadia and have a load of games, hey, you can still play those games. And for a small outlay for another service, you can maybe play the game that's not on Stadia, that you so desperately have to play. There are other options and services with equally low price of entry. And yet your existing Stadia games are still here. They're not going anywhere. But if, like me, you have a massive back catalogue of games on Stadia, including AAA, that you haven't even finished or started, all those interesting curiosities that we get with Stadia Pro, plus all the Ubisoft games to come this year to keep you happy, and you're not bothered about the latest big game, etc., continue to enjoy Stadia. It ain't going anywhere, sunshine, other than hopefully other countries by the end of the year. Stadia management isn't trawling through Twitter or Reddit for business advice from wannabe corporate backseat drivers who've owned a couple of consoles in their life. Trust me, it's not simply a case of Google reaching into their back pocket. If they had the budgets to continue to throw massive advances, knowing the sales would justify those advances, they would make them, but they clearly don't. That's plain to see. But to me, it's equally plain to see that there is a plan. Reset, consolidate, introduce a strategy to make the platform attractive to publishers that's fit for purpose and could be ready when Stadia is ready to roll out to more markets. Here endeth my TED lecture. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. All of that, of course. Be interesting to hear your thoughts on my thoughts, basically. Let's briefly talk about FIFA 23, or the lack of, in the face of the lack of Madden, that is, and whether there's any indication that FIFA will be coming or not. As I said, maybe because of the sales difference between FIFA, I looked it up, and FIFA outsells Madden by about 2-1. Twice as many sales of FIFA than there are of Madden. Plus, as I said, you've got to factor in people spend. I watch YouTubers who play FIFA who in a YouTube video will spend $5,000, $10,000, $1,000 in-game purchases on FIFA as part of their video. So you've got to think beyond just the game sales, but the game sales are outsell Madden 2-1. And there was, of course, on Stadia, there was, of course, a Twitter poll a little while ago here, back in April the 26th. 2 games enter, 1 game's leave. It's up to you to decide which game goes on sale. And you'll see in the poll, FIFA, again, 2-1, more than 2-1 in terms of popularity. And that mirrors the sort of sales of FIFA and Madden as well. So it probably mirrors the sales of FIFA and Madden on Stadia. There's no coincidence the way data works. So it's clear that FIFA arguably probably sells on Stadia twice as much as Madden. So the question is, if you think about what I just said, is whether the threshold of getting EA out of bed is enough in terms of the FIFA sales. And we'll have to see about that. That's the thing. But there you go. As I say, that almost mirrors the global sales split between the titles. FIFA is significantly bigger than Madden on Stadia. And I think the sales may reach critical mass for EA. As I said, especially when you factor in all the in-game sales. I mean, there were literally rumors that FIFA 23 would be free to play because they make so much money. The other point about FIFA is, why did they do that cross-play experiment and include Stadia? Yeah, if they weren't going to bring FIFA 23. Other than one could argue, if one's playing devil's advocate, it may have just been easier to include cross-play in Stadia. But there you go. There are also rumors from quite reliable sources here and these sources have a history of being pretty accurate, that FIFA 23, so the rumor leak here, officially launches on Friday, September the 30th, releases on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox X and S, Xbox One, PC, Windows, and Google Stadia. And a legacy edition is to exclusively for Switch. Yeah? This leaker is meant to be quite reliable. And was almost 100% accurate, as I understand it, from last year. He was 100% accurate with his leaks for FIFA 22. And also in other leaks on his Twitter page, there is so much detail there. And here, the layout here, in another one, but you've got, there'll be a 10-hour limited version of the full game, can be played 9 days before the official 23 release date. There'll be an Ultimate Edition that you can play 4 days earlier. Yeah. Now he may, you know, there was a lot of detail. And it's not just in here, in his Twitter as well. A lot of detail rather than just a random guess. I mean, he could just guess. I think he has guessed the launch date. He's just sort of said, look, here's the launch date pattern. It's the sort of where we are. Here we are. The Friday, the last Friday towards the end of September, which in this case is the 1st of October or whatever. Oh, no, that's sorry. Here, sorry. The 1st of October was the last Friday, sort of the main season. So he's arguably he could just be anticipating that based on the pattern before. But there's so much other detail here that suggests it might not just be guesswork. Now, I'm going to obviously have to play devil's advocate. Could just be a cut and paste from last year's platforms, hence Stadia included. It is in no way definitive. We're all going to have to watch this space. Equally, there's a tweet here from another donk. These people haven't got like 3 followers. They've got like 210,000 followers. And then the other guy's FIFA's got, the other guy's got about 200, 300,000 followers. And my son said he recognized the guy who's a YouTuber as well. But here, again, it's the detail that's interesting. Crossplay in FIFA 23. Now, crossplay was limited to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X. So the crossplay pilot they did for FIFA 22 was limited to just PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Google Stadia, not PC. It says here, crossplay, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PC, Steam, plus Stadia, not on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's this kind of level of details. All game modes. So it was only seasons, I think, in the pilot. One transfer market and can be turned off and on. A massive improvement already from FIFA 22. Huge feature that was needed. And there's other leaked information and stuff. So there's a lot of detail. But as I said, they could just be cutting and pasting the platforms. It's just the platforms that aren't included in the crossplay and ones that are compared to the pilot. I don't know. But we're just going to have to watch the space. That's the key thing here. Fingers crossed. But it will be interesting if it does come. And then it will prove out my theory, you know, that maybe the sales of FIFA are large enough to get FIFA basically out of bed. Yeah. It's like Snoop Dogg, $50,000 and he'll sing a line. He'll rap one line on your single. Yeah. No favors. He wants the money up front. Same with EA, Take-Two, that they want the big money up front. They can't be bothered to get out of bed for any less. Anyway, let me know what you think about all of that, ladies and gentlemen. As we head to chat, see what you guys have been saying. Have you been, responding? Have you been talking? What are your thoughts? Have I blinded you with science? Have I bored you out of your minds? All of that. Anyway. Yeah, hold back on the games until I finish my backlog. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Deaf Run TV's really got that, has got that Deaf Carnival kind of feel to it, I imagine. I can only get to, I don't know what room I'm in. Dave. I don't know what room it is. I just keep going round and round. Definitely, it's identical. Lake is identical, Primo. It is identical to Grand Theft Auto, as I say, apart from the criminals, crack whores, guns and violence, yeah. Streetwalkers and gangsters in Lake, yeah, check them out. Don't know about that. I think they're trying to bring it to as many platforms as possible, so probably different strokes for different folks. I enjoyed Lake. I was enjoying it. It's, one thing, right? No one says, oh, there's no games on Stadia. They'll say, oh, there's no AAA games. But, there's a real kind of sense of, people talk about Elden Ring and all that. If it came to Stadia, brilliant, amazing. Yeah, I'd play it. But I'm not that desperate to play. I really enjoy what turns up on Stadia. These are not necessarily games I would have gone out my way to go and buy or play. But it was a bit like when I still do subscribe to Xbox Games Pass, but Xbox Gold as well. I used to maybe there was 4 games, maybe one I might be interested in. I'd give it a go. I quite like doing that. Very rarely did I go out my way to buy a big game. And with Stadia now, it's just become a real habit. It sort of really matches the way I play. There's interesting and big enough. There's PUBG on there. There's, Rainbow Six Siege. That kind of satisfies an itch. But then you've got, Red Dead Redemption 2, the big story campaign games and stuff like that. Destiny 2. You've got those games that scratch those itch. And then you've got your quirky games, your platformers. And they're not, Stadia curate these games. They're not rubbish games. They're really good games, fun games. So I kind of love all of that. I know I should get my look in left and right. Right. That's quite right. Get sick. Yeah. Well, I can understand why you do, because there's some games where I do get a bit sick. What was that Canadian game where you, like a detective game, you walked around snowy waste? I think it was called Luna or something like that. Or Kona. Oh my God, he was walking around, but the sensitivity was bonkers on that. That made me, does it have combat? Well, the thing is, when I play it, right, I thought, I wonder if people play this and purposely run people over or hit people with a parcel. I just don't do that, but I just wonder whether people do. Yeah, I was fine floating around in space. It's just disorientating. I wasn't sort of sick. It's just like, oh yeah, I've got to spin around the other way now. Have I been through that door? Is that door up? Because it's 3-dimensional. It's like literally door up there, or is it the door down there, or is it over there? Am I upside down? Am I the right way around? Yeah. Very good. I'm glad people grabbed that. So shout out to all the people who joined the memberships. Thanks to Jack to Slip gifting the memberships. No cell phones with the internet in the 80s, which is well before cell phones and the internet. She didn't get away from them, they didn't exist. Yeah. 80s. Maybe it's the 90s then. Oh, I was a teen in the 80s, Jeremy. Don't remember that. Yeah. It must be the 90s because she keeps getting a call. Were there any cell phones? No, there's no cell phones. Yeah. She's got some old computer that she works on. Yeah. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, says Preston. Thank you, says Phil. Thank you, Jack. Jerome loves Power Rangers. It's quite a good fighting game, Power Rangers. Sub gifts are so cool. They are. They're tight. Yeah. Gifting membership is tight. Morphominal. Yes, exactly. Wish they'd make a service to spin up personal private Super Bomberman. Yeah. It seems interesting to me that they're just shutting it down. Yeah, let Jack know. Let Jack know how it works. Random. Interesting. I clicked on it. Okay. Madden 23. Boo. 21 Ubisoft titles in the store now. We've got plenty coming. We've got Heartlands. We've got, shooters. We've got team-based shooters. We've still got roller champions to come. All of that. Yeah, PGA Tour. Didn't get that. Seems cheaper to just wait for faster porting. I'm on Android, and when I pushed it, it only allowed me to report you or block you. Charming. Golf. Amnar, how are you? Yeah, shout out to the memberships. Yeah, they initially had an idea it would be a bigger success. No question about it. It's not the case. That's why I think when we look at the evidence, in a way, the AAAs that trickled out in 2021 were deals that were already done. And they weren't going to switch that off. They were done deals. Thanks for the membership there. Missed that one. They were done deals. So it sort of hided. Peda. Thank you, Peda. Oh, feeling better. That's good. That's good. Yeah, it has no games, Amnar. That's right. Exactly. I have to whiz through. It's ridiculous when I'm whizzing through on the old the game. Does Clive have a Discord server? No, because I don't understand it. ER Gaming. Maybe I should get one, yeah? Who's willing to help me build a Discord server? It's like the kid that pushed the girl he likes. Interesting. One of my biggest gripes is the fact that anyone at Google thought they could light the games into the file with 19 games and launch them somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to argue with, especially in retrospect. I think they thought the tech would blow people away and that 1030 Media Group, thank you for becoming a member. It would blow people away and that would be almost enough. And that everybody would, would embrace the tech, not just the industry, but the, consumers. I talked about to my friend at the weekend, girlfriend, how, and no disrespect to the my American audience out there, but generally they seem a little bit behind the curve in terms of new technology. They're all in love with Apple. Texting. They have, when cloud gaming was introduced to the world and they said, okay, it uses up loads of data, everyone in Europe was going, yeah, fine. Well, that's fine. Not a problem. Everyone in America going, what? That's ridiculous. Oh my God, because no, you want me to have to pay extra to play the game because of my data? And Europe's looking over there going, what, you have to pay extra for your data? What, is that a mobile phone? Your broadband? Get out of here. Backwards. Catch up. Activision, EA and others pull their games off GM back in the day too. Well, there is another layer to without making it more complicated. One of the reasons the big publishers, need enticing with big bucks initially is because I think they're also trying to work out their position when it comes to cloud gaming as well. And maybe they don't want to give away, when only like a couple of years ago, Netflix had all the Marvel movies. Yeah. The Office, all these kind of stuff. Then Disney Plus started up. Obviously Disney Plus owning Fox, Disney, National Geographic, all these things. What else? The Star Wars thing, all of that. And as soon as the licenses came to an end on Netflix for all the Marvel and stuff, Disney went, whoop, having them back. Office, having that back. That contract's finished. Oh, there are our properties, so we're having them. We're going on our streaming channel, yeah? And I think it's true with gaming. They're like, you don't want to give away the goose. You don't want to give away your goose that lays the golden egg and then realize, actually, we could have set up a whole cloud gaming thing. We don't know. So there is that kind of certain politics going on with the really large publishers who are kind of thinking maybe we should get into cloud gaming ourselves. Yeah, in the same way Disney came late to the streaming kind of market and others as well. The big publishers will dive in once Stadia opens up in India, Brazil, or whatever territory. I mean, that's the thing. You open up in another territory. You introduced a big AAA game to the platform. It might get you, I don't know, an extra 10,000 players, a few 100,000 if you're lucky. Yeah. You open up and offer Stadia to another territory with several million potential customers. I'm not saying you can get a million, but several million potential customers, tens of millions of potential customers. That moves the needle. No, I said 300 games by the end of 2022, primo. Yeah. Unless you're referring to the troll at Amnor, of course. Much like Jiffin, you get the deals and games you can until the numbers get to the point they need to be. You play the long game. There is a shift in developers. AAA have run out of ideas. A and AA as well. Homegrown talent are the next big developers. Boom, mic drop. Thank you. Hey, bud, how you doing? I'd like to see Tunic. So that's the other thing. You know, we've talked about it. If there are games you like, big or small, tweet about it. Tweet about it. Stadia are listening. You know, they read Reddit. God bless them, poor souls. And they read Twitter and things like that and the Discord. So talk about the games that you want. They pick up on it. They pick up on it. Thank you, Consigner. It's always nice to have people agree with you. Call me cynical. I think Jada has let go because she never really had the heart to make a game for Google. She wanted to. No, I think I think they were sold on. I think their ambition was massive. Yeah, their ambition was massive, but it clearly didn't deliver quick enough for the bean counters. Yeah, and yet they realized they had great technology. And so when you close SG&E, well, you've taken Jade on and the other people like Sharon Studstill, you bought them on because of SG&E. So they're not going to hang around if you're not going to be creating games. So that, you know, makes perfect sense why she'd go. Yeah, that's, yeah. Exclusives are not, you know. Stadia's not at that level that an exclusive will make a massive difference. It's nice to have, yeah, but nobody's coming running. It costs too much to have a massive exclusive. It's nice to have a few first look exclusives like we've had. Hello Engineer, Outcasters, get muddled up, don't I? Those sort of things. Super Bomberman R64, timed exclusive. Yeah, I'd love to Lego Star Wars. I'd love on the platform. Good evening, David. I maintain that Google announcing low change porting made a lot of put on hold for Stadia. Well, again, it makes sense if you apply. Again, my theory, my thesis works with that model as well, Metal, doesn't it? Because if it's cheaper for you, if you wait a little bit longer, because it's only going to take you a matter of weeks rather than months to bring your game, and thus cost you less investment to bring your game, and all you have to do is wait for low change porting to be rolled out. We know it's already with 10 publishers, so it's attracting publishers, and they're rolling it out as we speak to other publishers over the year. Exactly. Why spend 6 months, 20 people to port when 5 people can do it in that tool? Absolutely. Exactly. Which was partly, I think, was the sort of central column of Sonny's brilliant video. Shout out to Sunny Cloud Gaming. That there may be a delayed. This idea that somehow there's not going to be, as ever, there's an incredible amount of naivety out there. Like, why would Google Stadia say at the beginning of the year they're going to bring 100 plus games, and then repeat that with a strategy and a business model in the end of March at Google for Games Developer Conference, repeat that they're going to bring 100 plus games? right? So just because we haven't seen a massive influx doesn't mean they're not bringing 100 plus games by the end of the year. So you then have to ask the question, why have we not seen as many games at the beginning of the year as we did last year? And then that's a combination, as I said, probably because of the low end porting thing being rolled out. So there'll be a sort of like a bottleneck, and then suddenly a flurry of games over the summer and autumn. And also last year we had a lot of legacy deals that were done 18 months before that coming through as well. So that fits my model, and it works with Sonny's point of view. And the point that Metal Wolf is making here is that, yeah, I think some developers are waiting around. Nothing annoys me more than people who've never worked in the industry and things like what Google should do. Tell me about it, Peta Games. Tell me. That's why I get so frustrated. It's funny because I watch a lot of podcasts on football, right? And it reminds me, conversations around gaming reminds me of football. Yeah. And people go, oh, I tell you what that manager should do, or what that team should do. You know what Liverpool should do? They should get Lewandowski from Bayern because he's leaving Bayern Munich. I know he's 30. Let's get him for one season. Yeah. What they need to do is get so-and-so from that and bring him. That's what they need to do. Like, have you been in the, have you played professional football? Have you managed a professional team? Are you a soccer agent? Are you a sports journalist? Even then, that's, pushing it. No, you're a bloke down a pub, who thinks he knows better than a football manager or a footballing director that gets paid millions of pounds a year. Yeah? The same applies to the game industry. And yet when you watch commentators on, sports commentators, so in the UK, match of the day, whatever, you might get annoyed with the opinion of the people that are talking, but the people that are talking are ex-players or ex-managers. Yeah. So the panel in the chat room after the match, when we're watching the analysis, people are analyzing it. You might not agree with them. They might not be right, but what they bring to it is a bit of industry experience. They've played at the highest level. They've played in World Cups. They've won Premier League titles. They've won European Championship League titles. Yeah. They've managed teams at a high level. They know a little bit about what they're talking about, even if you might not agree with their point of view. And that is a difference between Dave down the pub, yeah, who plays games and watches games, and Dave, the manager, ex-Premier League manager, or Dave, the ex-Premier League footballer who played the game or managed the game or was in the industry. Yeah. And that's what annoys me. It annoys me. And that's why I say naivety. And I don't mean, do I mean that offensively? I don't mean to be offensive. I recognize it is offensive. There is a lot of naivety out there. Do I know everything? No, I do not know everything. Of course not. I know as much as you do. I know as much as you do. The difference is, it's how you look at that data and information that you do know, the information that you do know, and what experience you can bring to it. And as I said, I've worked in the gaming industry, did multi-million-pound deals with EA. I know how much money they want. I know how much money you can get out of them. Done deals with them. Sat in the room with them. Sony. Vivendi, Vivendi Universal back then. THQ. Developers, publishers. Yeah. So, and yeah, sure, it was a long time ago, but it just gives you a little insight, and I'm also in the rights industry, the streaming, in a way, effectively the streaming industry, the buying of rights. Yeah. I see how the TV industry has changed in the same way the music industry changed. So there we go. But yeah, we'll see. So I could be entirely wrong. But the point is, choose who you watch. Yeah. Ask yourself, what do they bring to the same knowledge that you have? Yeah. We all have the same information. I don't work for Google. I don't work for Google Stadia. I'm not like having a quick look. I wonder what they're talking over at Google Stadia department. Yeah. But it's what you can bring to the information that you do know, I think makes a difference. In my opinion. He's a bit conceited, isn't he? No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Well, you are. Yeah, no, but I'm just saying. Yeah, it will be, I believe, Twisted Barber. It is just one factor, indeed, Metal Wolf. Anyone who thought Google Stadia was coming out the gate and challenged Steam, PS, Xbox were dreaming. Even the people inside Google who thought this. Exactly. And you could look, as again, use the football analogy, if only they'd substituted so-and-so, if only they'd bought, hindsight is wonderful, isn't it? Hindsight is wonderful. I'm sure had they approached it again, they would have taken a different things, but they don't know. You don't, it's a new industry. You make the best guess on how it will change and how it will pan out when you launch. So you're not saying, oh, look, that's the difference. It's not as though you're saying, I'm going to move into the car industry. Okay. What are car sales like from that company over there? Okay. Then we can estimate we'll probably make that amount of sales. No, it's new. It's a new industry. So it's harder to sort of predict. Will people adopt it? Will people embrace Google entering gaming? Will people embrace the concept of streaming your games? It's impossible. It's impossible. It would never work. It will never work. Yet it did. But you don't know, The execution was not very good. I think we can agree with that. The tech is amazing. But that's hindsight for you. So, we're all wise on hindsight, aren't we? Of course we are. Consino says, like everyone, I want Google to spend cash on big games, but I understand that Google didn't become a $1 trillion company by just burning cash without having... Exactly. The point is, people go, Google should just do this. Google should buy Ubisoft, Why? I've said it before. Why would Google buy Ubisoft? It's not their industry. If anything, they'd buy a mobile IP game company, like King. Yeah, I know it's already bought, but like something like that, because it's actually mobile gaming. There was a chart I saw, I think somebody shared on Twitter, and in terms of gaming, Google is in the top 7, I think. Yeah. In terms of turnover, Google's in the top 7 because of turnover from gaming. Where's that from? Mobile gaming. So why would Google? So why would Google buy an Ubisoft? No, you'd buy a mobile gaming company, a publisher, a big one, like I say, like King or whatever it is. Before you'd buy an Ubisoft, because you'd be buying Ubisoft for a tiny offshoot of your company, Stadia. Yeah, it's a department. Clearly, they operate in sort of silos, the departments, and as I say, the baby has to wash its face. They have to prove to the Google management, we've got a platform here that will attract consumers and publishers and get the things in place. And I think that's what they're doing. Well, no, it won't for a while. They took a step back and said, let's do what Google always do. Grow the technology and the user base hand in hand, iterate, improve, find and exploit niches, grow into new markets. Yeah, better the devil you know. They went out in an un-Google way, if you think about it. Yeah, all swinging out big. Look at us. We do amazing things. It'll be amazing. And everybody will go, oh, Google, you're amazing. We love you. We'll embrace it. This is brilliant. We all want to be the future. Yeah, they clearly underestimated traditionalists, PC gaming. My PC game consoles. No, I'm a console gamer. I don't like different. And so they had to reset. And when you're a company like that and you reset, what do? Go back to basics. I speak with experience. I worked for a company, a big brand that decided they were going to enter gaming. They were going to enter, not license out their IP or anything like that. They were going to do it themselves. Contracting first-party developers, which is what I did, do the deals with developers, develop the games using the IP, publish the games ourselves, yeah? Do deals with, PlayStation and Xbox at the time and Nintendo, yeah? Do the contracts, had to do all the contracts for those. We were a publisher, in-house developer, all of that, yeah? And then the company, after a while, it made some losses for the first time in its 70-year history, not within just gaming, but another thing, because they were applying that model to so many different things. They tried to do things outside their core. And they decided, right, we need to contract and do what we do best. Yeah? And license out our IP to other people. Let's not make clothes. We don't make clothes. Why should we do it ourselves? Why don't we just license out the IP so people can make clothes based on the IP? Gaming. Why don't we license out the gaming? Which they did. And it was a massive success. Somebody mentioned Lego Star Wars. That was licensed out to Traveller's Tales that was set up specifically to exploit the Lego Star Wars IP or the Lego IP outside the company. They just paid a license and then a back-end share of every game they sold. To the company, low risk. Yeah? And as it turns out, massive success. Because it wasn't their field of expertise. They gave it to a company that was set up actually by an ex-EA, head of EA UK, who knew what he was doing. Because that was his industry. And it proved to be a massive success for him, Traveller's Tales, and for the company I work for. Even though, because of that massive contraction, that massive reset, I was made redundant as a result of, happened. So I've seen parallels to this, where a company has a reset and goes, wait a minute, let's go back to doing what we do best. Well, exactly, Primo Yonic. That's one of the things. Data collecting. It wasn't just, which one should we put on sale? Maybe it was to collect data. We go back to that. Maybe this was to collect data to feed back to EA. I mean, EA would have its sales, but just, you never know. There's no doubt cloud game. Absolutely, Jack. There's no doubt that cloud gaming will grow. Yeah, exactly. Look at Chrome OS and Android. That's the other thing that I mentioned in my talk. The thing about it, cloud gaming is a different business offering. It's a different concept from the traditional form of gaming, where you go, okay, we're going to have to manufacture 20 million boxes. Yeah, that's costing us $400 a box, and we're going to sell it for roughly just over $400, net. Yeah, so we're virtually making a loss, and we're going to have to store all those boxes and ship all those boxes. And if we don't sell 40 million boxes in the first year, we are royally fudged. Yeah. Thing about cloud gaming, you don't have that outlay. So it gives you the opportunity to play the long game if you have to. So there we go. A lot of fuss about Madden. Yeah. Yeah. So that, the five game deal is done. Now it's just a case of, is there enough incentive without a massive advance, or a smaller advance than they got when Stadia was first launched, for EA to bring FIFA 23 to the platform. Why is it when something doesn't come to Stadia, it's the death of Stadia? Exactly. Because people think in an old business model way. All the information. Why roll out a brand new business strategy to publishers and developers and at the end of March? Why introduce low change porting? Why introduce a new business model if you're winding down the company? It makes no sense, simply because they're not winding down the company, people. So anybody who says they thinks that, they've got a flat earth theory, haven't they? A theory that only applies in one particular way. It doesn't apply to all the theories. It doesn't stack up. Right, here we are. Woo! Yeah, too right. Thank you for that. Because of the hype. Well, I think the hype they built up was probably the right level. It's just the way they managed it. I think they needed, and again, we could you could write a thesis, you could write a book on the stumbled launch that was Stadia. Yeah. They just didn't manage the message. Yeah, it was the first. They should have queued up all the tech press almost like way before the launch, and explained to them in detail, because even the tech press got things wrong all the time. We see all the time. Oh, you have to pay for it. No, it's free. Oh, you need to, all this kind of stuff. Oh, it's like Netflix. No, it's not like Netflix. They didn't brief the press enough, in my mind, to then go, right now, press, you write your pieces. And press, go, oh, I get it. So there was too much of a vacuum, and people made up their own mind or assumptions, often in error. And then those assumptions were replicated and repeat. And we've seen it over the history of Stadia. So the hype was probably at the right level, but the message wasn't managed through. That hype wasn't carefully managed. It became unruly and became almost a detriment to Stadia. No game is the death of Stadia. Exactly, Peter. It's not like Google go, well, no EA support, shut down the service, is over. Exactly. Hope the leak is correct. I do as well. Come back to this channel. If you do, come back to this video. There are so many games. I actually expect people to say Stadia's no games that I want to play. That's fine and truthful and honest. I get that. Absolutely. Yeah. That's fine. My issue there, Pedder, is fine. But don't let Stadia live in your head rent-free, For those people that say Stadia's rubbish, has no games I want to play, well, fine. So you find a platform in which it does have the forget it. It's not for you, yeah? Like anything. Like they don't have my flavors. Well, why? Well, fine. Go to a shop that does have your flavors, yeah? But don't keep coming back to that shop going, you haven't got my flavors. You're rubbish. Goodbye. Then go back to your shop. Yeah, it's like having your favorite beer that, they don't sell cider. You don't sell cider. You're rubbish. Goodbye. Go to the cider pub. Go to the cider pub and stay in the cider pub. No. By the way, they sell cider over there. You're rubbish. I hate you. Stay out of the pub. Go to the cider pub if you only drink cider. So that's what annoys me, Pedder, about many people on Reddit and stuff like that. They just want to, if it's not for you, that's fine. And I respect that. I'm not saying you, Pedder. I know it is for you. But for people who say, there's no games I want to play on Stadia, well, that's fine. Just don't keep going on about it. Do Stadia have an agreement with EA of exclusive FIFA in the cloud? I doubt it. And I doubt EA would agree to that without massive advance. And as I've said, I don't think Stadia have that level of money, you know. Yeah, Pac-Man was a good one. Yeah. Yeah, EA Play, though, have an old FIFA on it. Because FIFA's their crown jewels. They don't just give it away. So EA Play, if you get EA Play, it's not like Ubisoft, I don't think. You don't get all the best AAA games from day one. EA Play is just like a collection. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember looking at it, and the only FIFA they had back then was like FIFA 19. This was about a year ago, but even then, that's all they had on EA Play. At this point, Stadia Games doesn't do anything for me, but the tech is what keeps me play with the community. I have to go elsewhere for games. You don't have to go elsewhere for games. Just go elsewhere for the games that you want to play. But interestingly enough, Anthony, there are plenty of games that you do want to play on Stadia because you play them all the time. And you make a lot of, you make a lot of videos out of just talking about Stadia. So talking about Stadia. Oh, God. EA is included in Games Pass. Yeah, exactly. There are only a handful of EA games. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. No game is rubbish. Reigns. Hey, I enjoyed Reigns. I just wish it had touch control. So it was more like a dating app. Swipe left, swipe left. Swipe left, swipe right. Swipe left, swipe right. I don't know. I've never used a dating app ever. I stand corrected. Yay, Peter, member for 4 months. Shokuyu. 8 months. Woo. Been good to catch up throughout the week. Would be good. I'm sure others would too. I'm thinking of doing a show, a proper podcast show. It will be live on YouTube, but a proper podcast show. I've been watching other podcast shows, not necessary gaming shows, like football shows and stuff like that. I'm thinking we're doing one for Stadia, potentially, but in a much more relaxed podcast style. With me, I want my things, my games, my YouTube videos to be different from everybody else's, to have a unique point. Like this is a show. This is a in-depth news show, an analysis show, hence the studio, and all of that. So I just want a cool podcast with no sort of displays or let's look at this web page or anything, just a chat. Yeah, like a proper podcast that will be filmed for YouTube. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm also thinking who would be on it and stuff like that. Maybe a regular, but it's just an early thought. But and that would maybe be on a Thursday or something like that to catch up with news that I miss on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday a bit. Because often poor old Clive in the news studio is giving you news that's 6 days old sometimes. Yeah, it is absolute BS. It's unbelievable to me, data caps in the States. I was trying to explain to somebody that America is meant to be this pinnacle of free markets and capitalism. And the reality is there are examples of the corruption within that free market, such as the cost of medicine. Yeah. The point of a capitalist free market is it's meant to push the price down for the consumer. The reality is in America, you get situations where you get a cabal of 4 or 5 big companies who kind of, there's enough of them to avoid being accused like a monopoly or duopoly, but not too many of them so that they can manipulate the market. And that's what you end up with data caps. Yeah, God of War is an example. Like I quoted Disney pulling, once the licenses had pulled off, had come to an end on Netflix, they pulled back, and Amazon, they pulled back all their licenses that they own, the IP they own, back for themselves. That's exactly what's happening with God of War on GFN. And of course, the thing about GFN is, as a publisher, all you have to do is tick a box. Do you want to be included or not? Yeah. And equally, untick that box when you don't. After all, GFN is effectively, and there's nothing wrong with this, but it is effectively a gaming PC in the sky. That's all it is. A very good one. But yeah, so there's a risk when they want to, wait a minute, that's our golden, that's a golden goose. We want it on our PlayStation Now system, Wavetails, good exclusive, yeah. Yeah, well now, exactly. The point of exclusives back in the day is because it was trying to give a reason to you for spending 300, 400, 500 pound on a box. I remember buying, I don't know how much it was at the time, 200 quid, platinum edition of the GameCube Zelda edition. Yeah, Wind Waker, because I wanted Wind Waker, and I was in the market for a Nintendo GameCube at the time. So I bought it for that. Yeah. But it was to incentivize me to spend 200 quid or however much it was at the time. But you don't have to do that with Stadia, do you? There's no rhyme or reason. You're not having to spend a box, so you don't need those big exclusives. And especially at the level that Stadia is, it's not going to move the needle. It's not going to move the needle. They're nice to have, little things here and there. People don't think we'll get 100 games. There's a roadmap. Well, there is a roadmap to a certain degree, Peter. We're going to get 100 games. But I get, and we know, if you just go to Reddit, the wiki on Reddit, or on Stadia Dosage, there's a list of all the games we know that are coming. We know when a lot of the Ubisoft games are scheduled to come. So we know games are coming in July. We know games coming in September, October, the end of the year. We know some games coming in 2023. We know a game coming in 2024. So, but I get, it would be, you want more detail, and I get that. We're sure we'll see 100. Yes, that is a nice niche, I think, as well. I really like the button changes depending on the controller you're using. That'd be interesting. Armchair managers, exactly. It's the same, exactly. Wrestling, yeah. Bloke down the pub, exactly. It's that old thing about, you get your medical advice from the bloke down the pub or your doctor, Old Ray says, right, apparently this monkeypox going around, Dave down the pub says, why are you asking Dave down the pub? Unless he's a bloody virologist or something. Chrome became #1 browser, Android became #1 mobile OS, Gmail #1. Exactly. It's generations to come, the cloud. Exactly. A lot of today's gamers are locked in, are traditionalists, despite gaming being sort of, techie and all that. They're actually traditionalists. Cloud gaming more expensive ones that fill it with tank than buy a console. Exactly. Not soon then. Not pretty soon. Exactly. It has grown, Mr. Urban World. It has. If you look at the analysis, that data analysis that we've seen people do, there was some in 2021, and some recent one is, there has been a growth, albeit maybe from 1% to 3%, but it is growing. It is growing. Well, not just an indie, but no, we don't have to accept that. Right now, the point of my thesis, as it were, Ron Slusher, is you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be frank and ask yourself, are you happy that other than Ubisoft games in 2022, you are unlikely to see FIFA 23 maybe? You are unlikely to see any major AAA games other than Ubisoft games, which there are plenty, in 2022 come to Stadia. If that bothers you so much, yeah, then accept that, swallow that, take it, move on, do what you want, find where you can get your game that you want to play, etc. But that's not to say Stadia is an indie platform, full stop. I'm just talking about 2022. As the market grows, if they expand, if that threshold needed to give the game sales to a level that will get the publishers out of bed, the big publishers, because the business model works. It works on a small scale. We've seen it with the addition of new publishers. That's the key thing. EA has abandoned Stadia. Publishers are abandoning Stadia. When the facts are that publishers are coming to Stadia, albeit small to medium-sized publishers, but they're coming to Stadia, which suggests that the model at the scale that it currently is in terms of player base works. So all they need to do is ratchet up that player base, and hopefully that same model with a larger player base will trigger the big publishers, once they've sorted out what they want to do when it comes to cloud gaming, to come to Stadia. That is a good shout. Maybe it was rushed out. Maybe they wanted to sort of be first to it, sort of thing. Although Project xCloud was in beta at the time. I know Project Cloud or whatever it was at the time, but Project xCloud was Project Steam. Yeah, damn, not coming. Yeah, people are happy with Switch Pro. Where's the beef? Every month since Stadia launched has offered value for subscription. Exactly, 52 games. That Stadia Pro library, slowly but surely creeping up. I reckon we're gonna get to 60. I said between 60 and 70 in the Stadia Pro library at any one time by the end of the year. I'm sticking with it. They should do a Game of Thrones. That'd be good. Oh, yeah, but I like playing it. Yeah, I like playing it on Stadia though. It's a fun game. Oh, I must admit, Ron, I haven't looked for a while. Will News Report Clive be on your podcast? Maybe, or maybe Lord Kensal. I try to use my platform to allow gamers to have discussions for it for Stadia. Basically, I tell you what, no disrespect, Anthony, but what your channel is literally, and there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong talking about football down the pub with your mates. There's nothing wrong in that. I love talking about football. I talk football with my son. We love to be armchair experts and talk about it. Oh, you hear about that transfer? Oh, they should have done that. Do you think they'll do that next year? We love the sport. We love Liverpool. We love talking about Liverpool. We love Stadia. And, Stadia and gaming. You love talking about it. And podcasts like yours are a great place to have like a chat about gaming from a gamer's point of view and a gamer's experience. Nothing wrong in that. Nothing wrong in that at all. It's just holding what people say in those things to a certain level of validity of veracity. But there's nothing wrong in having conversations. That's why gaming podcasts are so popular. People love talking about gaming. Why not? You love people to talk about their hobbies and their why not? One hand clapping. Oh my God, yeah. On the Pornhub, yeah. Where's he been? Exactly. Lie. Well, Lugo, there are so many idiots of the week out there. I did an idiot of the week once, and he was a complete idiot. And he said something much later, not about gaming, but about music. He was very contrite. No, he wasn't. He was a contrarian. He said something about the Beatles or whatever being rubbish. And he just thought, you're just trying to be a contrarian. Anyway, the point is it backed up my thoughts about him as a person and what he said about Stadia, even though he was a journalist, even though the tech blog he writes for, in fact edits for, have come out and said Stadia is the best in terms of cloud gaming tech. This was before, GFN launched their RTX, whatever, 3080, 90s, whatever. So the tech blog spoke about saying the best tech out there. And he, in a podcast, he's saying, yeah, Stadia's rubbish, can't play it, it's unplayable, can't play it, but xCloud is amazing. And I just thought, how can you can't just because you had a bad experience, the more people have a better experience on the Stadia tech than they do with xCloud tech, especially back then. This was over 18 months ago. Anyway, I said this, and two or three people got really offended that I'd called somebody an idiot. And I don't want to be too mean. Trust me, I in my head, what I'd like to say, honestly, I've been naming idiots left, right, and center. So I just thought maybe, look, I could be a bit harsh, I don't want to be too mean to people. Interesting enough, those three people were all from the same podcast, completely separate podcasts, have their own little tiny podcasts. Back then, they did anyway. So it wasn't just random people. Basically, it was one person in a way, but just in the form of three people from the same podcast. Interesting. GameCube, good times. Exactly, man. Yeah, it would be nice. I don't think they're going to make more control. Well, actually, maybe they will. If they do roll out, if you roll out to a big territory, maybe you're going to have to manufacture more controllers. And maybe that would be an opportunity, because otherwise I don't really see. That's the thing about Stadia, is you don't really need a Stadia controller, although it is the best way to play. So maybe if they'll ramp up manufacturing if they do roll it out to another territory. Howdy, Geek to Sneak. Down the pub says eating ready breck keeps. Oh, I thought like rubbing ready breck on you keeps monkeypox away. If Stadia doesn't get the games you like, buy a PS5. Well, not everyone can buy a PS5, but I get what you're saying. Stadia doesn't have and play the game. Stadia does it with friends you have on Stadia. Case closed. What? I did get the game Stadia doesn't have, and I play the game Stadia does it with the friends you have on Stadia. Case closed. Okay. Stadia doesn't. Or just play whatever you can get those games, Cowboy. Exactly. Truth is, we don't know anything behind the scenes, good or bad. All we can do is make assumptions, or like we call educated guess. But we don't really know, and it's fun to have discussion. There's no harm in that. There's no harm in that. All I'm saying is there's certain people put themselves out there as somehow have got the inside track or the truth. When you just need to be honest and say, in my opinion, based on the information I have, based on my experience in the industry, or having seen it before, or whatever, just put a context around what you're going to say, or just be honest and saying, we're gamers, we love playing games, we love talking about it, like your good self, Anthony, and that's why your chat's always interesting. It's people, come on, you got Holtz on there, come on, talking about your games you like from your experience, and that's always interesting, and you discover that actually some people aren't that bothered about Madden and FIFA and things like that, but they are bothered about, I don't know, JPRGs, Japanese games or something like that. Holtz is a big fan of Japanese games and things like that. Holtz is not a first-person shooter game. He just likes his own little kind of solitary gaming style. Different horses for different courses, To grow a pair, I did. I want an orange one. Yeah. It is. It is still awesome, And if you introduce Stadia to somebody who'd never heard of Stadia, i.e. in a different territory, it's a pretty good offering. Yeah. Anyway, look, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Rattling on there. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I hope you got where I was coming from. in terms of what to expect, in my view, in my opinion, what to expect from Stadia in 2022, and how that's not necessarily reflection of what to expect from them in 2023 and onwards. Okay. But you just have to be realistic based on the patterns that we've seen and the moves they've made, what we think they're doing, and not what we think they're doing, what we know they're doing. Everything I said in my big kind of talk, my TED talk, is based on stuff we know. Yeah. So then when you put the pieces together, you start to see a picture. If you just put one piece together, you're not going to see the picture. You need to put all the pieces together. Then you start to see a picture, and then you can start making assumptions and filling in the gaps. It doesn't say you're necessarily going to be right, but you're more than likely to be right if most of the picture is filled out with facts and information that we do know. What we do know, and the pattern that we've seen, is we're unlikely to see significant AAA games come to Stadia in 2022 for all the reasons I've said. If you are okay with that, accept that, then fine. Okay? But take it on board and don't moan about it, because that's the reality. Yeah? And if it bothers you enough, find something else to do. If you're not bothered about it and you're quite happy to play the 200 odd plus games we've already got, look forward to the next 70 odd games that are due this year. Yeah? Then you'll have a lot of fun. And look forward to 23 and 24. But anyway, fingers crossed for FIFA 23. The leaks seem to say it, but devil's advocate, maybe the leaks are just cut and pasting the platforms. You make up your mind on that one. Until we hear from EA themselves, which won't be long, we won't know. But on that, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, go watch your favorite Stadia streamer, join in the chat, join in the conversation, because we all love talking about gaming. We love talking about Stadia. Encourage them, support them, all of that. And why don't we do this all again, same time, same place, next week. And talking of people chatting, Anthony will be after here. If you hang around, you'll get the redirect message and all of that. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I'll see you same time, same place next week. Look out for if I make any announcements about my podcast thing. Anyway, and let me know as well in the comments now or later or on Twitter whether you like that. Nerd Nest aren't talking about Stadia on a regular basis. And it's a slightly more a relaxed version of that, but without sort of necessarily catching up on the news, just a chat about the state of Stadia this week or whatever, that sort of thing. Anyway, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you for watching. Really, really appreciate it. Share, like, especially the stuff, if you agree with what I said, get it out there, get it on Reddit. Let's see them all downvote it. And all of that. Thank you and goodbye.